The first couple of weeks of the 2025 college football season have been incredible, and everything is pointing towards week 3 being just as exciting. We've got a number of ranked matchups, and this week is a little bit more special because we've got some new teams crashing the party, like USF, who's got a big matchup this week against Miami. We've got a huge one with a team that just got knocked out by USF. We'll see LSU and Florida with a showdown in Death Valley at Tiger Stadium. Now, to start us off, we need to talk about the number 1 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes because they host the Ohio Bobcats at home, 31.5-point favorites, and we can understand that that number makes a lot of sense. Ohio State looked great on the defensive side of the football against Texas. Didn't move it quite well against them. A great defense for Texas over there. A number of guys that were on the preseason All-American list. But now that game against Grambling, they're coming off of where we saw Julian, Sayin, and the offense completely open up to the point where they didn't even need to play their starters at all in the second half. Now, the Ohio Bobcats, when you go into these types of matchups, what you're looking for from your starting quarterback in Navarro, who actually happens to be your leading rusher through the first couple of weeks, is the exact same thing that Grambling's coach was talking about. Not having a lack of discipline, not having the pre-snaps. The environment is going to be tough there in the shoe, but doing all of the little things correctly, tackling when you have your opportunities in open field, trying to get any bit of pressure that you can on Julian Sayin, and doing what Grambling did not, which is finding a way to keep somebody on Jeremiah Smith. It made no sense that he was that open on both of his touchdowns. I just don't get how you can allow arguably the best player in the country to be that open. So Ohio, we can expect them to put a little bit more effort in stopping number 4. As we saw last week, it's not just him. There is Carnell Tate. There's Max Clare. There's all these weapons for the Buckeyes you need to be worried about. I've got the Buckeyes covering the 31.5-point spread and winning this game 52-7. Now, moving it along to number 2, Penn State. Now, Penn State did not look great last week against FIU. We expected them to be up a lot more than they were. I think it was only 10-0 at half. Drew Allar looked pretty good, but they went off to a slow start. Need them to start a little bit quicker this week against Villanova. Get the run game going. Allen and Singleton, we know how talented those guys are. And then I honestly put a little bit of this on James Franklin. You have a huge matchup looming against the Oregon Ducks in week 5 in the Whiteout game. You need to have that quality of play come out a lot earlier, that you guys can play very well earlier on in these games, so that when you get into those matchup games, you get your Oregon, you get your Ohio State later on in the season, you can be playing at a high level already much quicker, and it not just be a sloppy first quarter, because as we know, that can really put you behind in big matchups. So this week against Villanova, Penn State is favored, obviously, and I've got them winning 48-6 is what I believe, that they're able to only give up 2 field goals and really pile it on Villanova, expecting a much crisper effort from Penn State this week, really pointing towards their offense starting faster, and Allar with the new weapons, right? Ross on the outside, Pena get the ball to his playmakers early and being efficient. Week 3 has this matchup we mentioned in the opening of this. LSU, the number 3 team in the country, hosting Florida. Florida coming off of a heartbreaker. We saw the weird spitting. Why has there been all this just spitting, uncharacteristic, undisciplined? Just there's no part of it in football, but they end up having one of their players ejected for spitting. USF goes down the field. Florida winds up getting beaten by a game-winning field goal. LSU is favored by 7.5 at home. I mean, Death Valley is an incredibly tough place to play, but that margin seems a little bit too long for me. I'm expecting really good stuff out of DJ Lagway this week. I love the backs. I love what they can do on the offensive line. I think that Jake Slaughter is the best center in college football. Maybe him and Parker Brailsford up there as well. Really good quality guys in the interior that lead that offensive line. I expect Lagway's legs to be a large factor, but on the flip side of that, one of the only guys in college football that can be able to match athlete for athlete with him, mirror him, third down and long, be able to quarterback spy is the all-talented Harold Perkins. Harold Perkins being back for LSU has been everything to that defense. With him, it looks like they are on another level. I really think that Baker has done a great job with them. Obviously, last year they're trying to put it together, but this season the pass rushes there. The Weeks brothers are absolute psychos roaming around, hitting people. I have LSU winning this game by a score of 21-17, a little bit below the over-under of 48.5. It's considered to be a bit more of a high-scoring game. I like the defenses on both sides. Even though Florida's offense was stalling out there, they felt in control, right? They were at home, leading for pretty much the entire game, and then just unable to close it out and put USF away. And sure enough, the Bulls are able to pull it out. But 21-17, Garrett Nussmeier is able to avoid the big turnover, and the Tigers come out with the win. Now, this next game is a fun one, right? 50.5 is the over-under for Oregon and Northwestern. Number 4 Oregon Ducks have looked as crisp and clean as anybody has through the first couple of weeks of the season. Dan Lanning's squad didn't need to get motivated a whole lot going up against Oregon State last week. I understand that he's got a very talented quarterback, Dante Moore, that the run game now with the kid that they brought in, Mekhi Hughes, obviously very talented. They scored, 2 touchdowns in the first 2 minutes of that game. DeCorian Moore, we saw the flashes from him, very positive signs. I've got Oregon beating Northwestern 49-7. There's nothing that Northwestern does that is better than what the Ducks can do. I love that Oregon defense, led, of course, by Mateo Uiagalelei. This kid is my personal favorite edge player in the Big Ten. I think he's the best pass rusher, also a pretty good run defender as well. There's nothing that Northwestern kind of does that is going to threaten them or make them nervous at all. I mean, I'm expecting Oregon to come out firing and establish the run early and get Dante Moore going. The same exact type of thing that we saw from him last week against Oregon State, coming out confident, coming out loose, because you have, again, just like Penn State does, that looming battle in a couple of weeks in the Whiteout game on the road for them, obviously. Much bigger difference than being at home for Penn State. Much needing the win in that matchup. I mean, that one could very well decide who has the right to play Illinois. Got to include them as of right now. Illinois or Ohio State. It really looks like it'll be one of those two teams. Whoever wins that matchup, that'll be right now. It's a number 9 versus number 1 in October in a few weeks at Memorial Stadium there in Urbana-Champaign. And then the winner of the Whiteout game between Penn State and Oregon. So very much like Penn State, Oregon's got to get ready. They got to keep starting fast, getting their quarterback as comfortable as possible, putting him in situations where he's relied on passing the football and will need to show up in a big way, get him going so that the confidence is as high as possible before that showdown with Penn State. Let's keep this moving along for our first ranked matchup that we have here. 56.5 points. They are expecting a good amount of points between number 18, South Florida, and number 5, Miami. How about the atmosphere so far this season at Hard Rock Stadium? Miami has been as good as just about anybody in college football. Obviously, we're going to point to that win against Notre Dame. What did they do well, and why do I have confidence that they will be able to knock off South Florida in this matchup? I loved the way they stopped the run. Brown has been their leading rusher, right? As a quarterback, as a leading rusher, obviously that presents a little bit of concern if you're a South Florida fan going up against the Canes, right? This is going to be a team led by Ruben Bain, a whole bunch of really talented players in the secondary, in the second level of that defense that have shown through the first couple of weeks that they are for real on the defensive side of the ball. I really think that this is going to be a game where Brown has to use his legs. He's going to have to be very efficient running the football. I don't see them being able to really hurt Miami all that often through the air the way that Miami can. Obviously, we're going to have to talk about the true freshman Malachi Toney and his impact. Mark Fletcher for Miami so far has been the lead back, and Carson Beck has been, let's just say, in consideration for New York already for the start of this season. He has been playing very good football. Most importantly of all of it, 42 of 55, how efficient he's been. Really not seeing any incompletions. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with last week in the competition that you face. Almost no opportunities to throw incomplete passes. But it's been the lack of the turnovers. And that was the big part of why they were able to knock off Notre Dame in the first game of the season. I think that Miami gets the win, right? They're favored by 18.5 points. That is quite the stretch there. I don't see them winning it by more than that much just because of South Florida, the way that they've played defense so far, held Boise State to 7. They held Florida to 16 points, right, in week 2. I believe that Miami puts up 31 to South Florida's 20, that they come away with an 11-point win at home. Obviously, some of these games for Miami coming up here are huge, right? They've got a bit of a tougher schedule than they thought they did as far as Florida State and what that game against Castellanos looks like in a couple of weeks. They got Florida right before that. So we'll know everything we want to know about Miami in the next 3 games, a couple of ranked matchups. Florida, if they want to get back into the rankings, obviously it's an opportunity. They can pull off a win at LSU. But as far as right now, as we talk about Miami, they're looking great, and a lot of that has to do with Mario Cristobal's quarterback, how he has elevated his play from a year ago by not turning the ball over in key spots. Another ranked matchup that we have to get into and unpack. The number 6 Georgia Bulldogs heading into Neyland Stadium to take on Josh Heupel, Joey Aguilar, and the Tennessee Volunteers. This is... is it the game of the week? There's a game a little bit later here that I've just been so fascinated by the entire offseason. Georgia, Tennessee, we see these types of matchups every year. A couple of SEC showdowns, teams that know each other very well. Tennessee hasn't beaten Georgia in a long time. Georgia's favored by 3.5 points. There's a lot of faith that they're going to be able to play better than they did last week. A very sloppy showing. Gunner Stockton playing in the fourth quarter, throwing the ball over 30 times. They just didn't have enough with Nate Frazier to be able to come out, play good enough to put him away. That's certainly concerning. The game before, it's like a get-right game before you have your matchup against a very tough team. But Frazier so far in the season, I've liked what we've seen. Zachariah Branch, obviously the elevated receiving core is what you are excited about if you are a Georgia Bulldog football fan. On defense, Raylan Wilson, one of the best linebackers in the game. CJ Allen has been great. We can talk about Modozi. I'm expecting him. I want to see him get on the field a little bit more. Such a talent out of Army. Tennessee really has to do a good job with those backers, with those edge defenders for Georgia, who just seem to produce them at a ridiculous rate. Chris Brazzell has blossomed in this Tennessee Volunteer offense. We've seen a number of guys get to the league, right? Cedric Tillman, Jalen Hyatt come through there. Dante Thornton, who's now with the Las Vegas Raiders. Unfortunately, Brew McCoy had that ankle and just wasn't able to get right, had to medically retire. But Brazzell has been flourishing so far on the year, almost 200 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns. I immediately point towards him, their opportunity against Georgia. It's everything that you really look forward to as a player in this conference. Going up against great competition, a chance to show NFL scouts, general managers. There's going to be some, you would think, in attendance for this. Probably the most, this game and obviously LSU are the games that people will choose where they want to go and check out. Those would be the 2 games that have the most people there to watch and have the most eyeballs on. Now, as far as a prediction goes, it's tough because I like Stockton. I love what I've seen from Aguilar on the year, but Georgia's defense has has played at a level the last couple of seasons that has been great. Now, I'm not going to base this off of previous production, but this year, it almost seems like we were waiting for that breakout performance to come in a big moment the last couple of weeks, and I see that happening this week against Tennessee. Now, do they hold them to 7? No, I don't see that happening, but I'm putting 4 or 5 sacks on the day against Aguilar, getting him on the ground. I've got a Georgia win 26-21. Heupel's offense, right? Kirby Smart, obviously very familiar with it. It's a one read. The whole entire thing is about numbers. If there's 6 guys in the box, too high, obviously we're running the ball. If there's 7 in the box, we're dumping that thing to the outside, putting it in the slot. We're playing the numbers every single play when it's in the early downs, right? First and second down. If it's 3rd and 9, likely, obviously, not going to see Tennessee do the same type of thing. Got to try and pick up the first down. But that's really all that they run. Georgia mixes up their coverages very well. The question is, can they get pressure with 4? And I'm banking on them being able to. Let's move it on to UTEP versus number 7 Texas. As you can tell with the way we're going down through this, starting with the top team in the country and the Buckeyes, working our way down to 25. Missouri will be the last team that we do. UTEP at Texas, right? This game in Austin, the Longhorns bounced back in a major way. Arch Manning threw 4 touchdowns in a span of almost 5 minutes. 41.5 point favorite for Texas. I believe that they can dominate this game. This is Arch's, opportunity, right? They've got a couple of really big looming matchups coming up here once they start that SEC schedule. Obviously, they've got Florida on the road, which is going to be circled. Whether or not Florida even is able to pull off that win at LSU, they are going to have a ton of motivation once they play Texas. The run game, I like Baxter. I really like Wisner, getting Wingo a bit more involved. Livingstone, right? The really nice catch against Ohio State. This kid has been a major factor so far for this team. I believe his role within the offense will continue to develop and open up quite a bit more for that Longhorn squad. Now, I bet you can see where I'm going with this. 48-6, I have a Texas win. I'm not done with this game quite yet because I got to talk about their defense first, right? And how can you go anywhere else except for Anthony Hill Jr.? That's Superman jumping through the air, forced fumble, punch outs, right? Last week, that was, I can't do that. I wouldn't be able to do that. I know a lot of guys that think they're pretty good athletes that wouldn't be able to pull that off if they tried it a million times. Incredible player. Colin Simmons, come on, man. Let's get some production. Let's keep it coming off the edge. Get to the quarterback. Looking for Colin Simmons to have a big day. Malik Muhammad showed up really well earlier in the season in that week 1 game against Ohio State, holding his own for the most part against the Buckeyes wide receivers. Let's keep it rolling. This is another ranked battle. Number 8 Notre Dame from South Bend, Indiana, will be hosting number 16 Texas A&M. Marcel Reed heads out to South Bend. Wow. First off, what we'll talk about here is the defensive backs. And I want to start with Christian Gray because he took so much heat, right, memed in the offseason because of that blown play, let Jeremiah Smith get behind him in the national championship game. And now I want to say this. Christian Gray is a very good football player. When Benjamin Morrison went down last year, he was able to obviously fill into a role and pretty much shine. A large part of why that secondary was still one of the best in the country after their star corner Morrison goes down. And so now Christian Gray and Leonard Moore, this forms still one of the best defensive back, one of the best secondaries in college football, hosting A&M. A&M's identity come out and be able to stop Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love. I kind of question what the game plan will be here. Obviously, Cash is Hal, right? We know about him, but who else? Who's going to step up? Last year, obviously, Shamar Turner dealing with a little bit of stuff in the middle, but obviously the all-SEC Defensive Player of the Year in Nick Scourton was such a monster. who is that guy, right? Who will step up on that defensive line for A&M? And offensively, we've seen some great stuff out of Mario Craver. Casey Concepcion, like we're expecting him to have a good day. People think about this matchup and they just say, oh yeah, this is just going to be run games. Have we looked at these wide receiver cores and see how talented they are? Craver and Concepcion, top 10, 15 duo in college football. Obviously, him coming over for NC State, huge for that wide receiver core. A big part of why they're ranked in the teens. And then for Notre Dame, they bring in Malachi Fields to pair with Faison. But Jaden Greathouse, we got to see more production. Jaden Greathouse needs to get going here. Week 1 is the only game they've played, right? The loss against Miami, it was Raritan, the tight end, who led them with almost 100 receiving yards. I believe they go to Greathouse early. Jeremiah Love, he was held throughout the entire day. They weren't able to get him going. Only were able to get him going really in the fourth quarter with the receiving attack, getting him the football through the air. Obviously, that needs to change. That offensive line was questioned a little bit, but people are doubting him in the sense of like, what, we just got dominated up front, weren't able to run the football all that well. We've got all these returning starters. Why can't we? So I really want to see more out of Notre Dame. I believe that CJ Carr elevates that offense to a higher level than what it was with Riley Leonard a year ago, because of he's got the athlete in him, but also it looks to be like more of a pure passer, ability to navigate the pocket. Notre Dame favored by 6.5. I got him covering 27-19. I like him in this game. Love the way they fought down 2 scores against Miami, battling back, tying up the score. No, they let Carson Beck drive down the field on him, but you do really have to like what you saw in that second half and them continuing to battle. This team does not quit. So Notre Dame 27-19, pulling off the win against Mike Elko's squad. Number 9, Illinois, a 27.5 point favorite. Last week, a ton of question marks for their offensive line. I don't know what the heck was going on. There was a certain guy that they just had no ability to block. That was really concerning if you're a Fighting Illini fan. They got to get that short up in a hurry. They're not really going to be tested all that much this week. I don't know why they were only, 2.5, 3.5 point favorites. I like them to be, I took them by a lot last week against Duke. People were really counting on Darian Mensah having a good day. What helped for them was Anthony was wrecking the game in every way. Illinois got a great player also on the edge in Gabe Lucas. He'll be drafted either late day 1 or be a day 2 pick, one of those premier edge type players in the Big Ten Conference. But this week, we got to see better offensive line play. They need to be able to establish the run. They've got this 250-pound running back in the backfield. Get him going. The defense, we know what the defense is. They got a great defense. They always do under Brett Bielema. The offensive line holds up. Luke Altmaier threw a couple of really beautiful balls in the red zone last week. He's been consistent. Nowhere near the turnovers we saw a couple of years ago, continuing the trend from last year. I've got Illinois with a big win here, 41-10. They knock off Western Michigan at home. South Carolina and Lenora Sellers will host Vandy this week. The spread is 5.5 for this game. I got South Carolina getting a big 5.5, 48.5 points. Obviously, people are really up on Pavia and the way he played last year. Now, this being in South Carolina, I really don't factor in a lot of last year's play. I look at this year and what Lenora Sellers has been explosive. I look at on the other side, their best defensive player, Dylan Stewart. He could be anyone's maybe best defensive player except for maybe 2 teams in the country, maybe Texas or Ohio State. Everywhere else, he's pretty much going to be the most electric guy on defense. Very happy he wasn't hurt in that Virginia Tech game. Important to have him obviously on the field. I've got South Carolina winning this game 27-18. I'm very confident they can get the run game going. Nick Harbor, he's turning into really one of my favorite players in all of college football. To tell you the truth, I love this kid's explosiveness. Obviously, last week didn't really do a whole lot. But Nick Harbor, man, I mean, you add that explosiveness, that size, developing as a route runner. Obviously, he's got the track speed. So getting him the ball often. I really like South Carolina in this game solely because that they have the best two players on the field. I think that they can get a lot of pressure on Pavi. They had a lot to come back and replace, losing TJ Sanders, Nickham, and Worry in the back end, but it does look like this defense will be legit again this year. Helps when you've got an elite edge rusher. South Carolina to win this game at 27-18. Now, my favorite game of the weekend, and this includes the National Football League. Clemson at Georgia Tech, Bobby Dodd Stadium. Now, I got to admit something. I took Clemson in a preview video, and I made that video 2 days ago. But I got to tell you, I'm thinking Georgia Tech wins. It felt wrong when I came out and said I think Clemson's going to win this game, because I was like, you know what? Ever since I saw Georgia Tech's quarterback Haynes King battle at the end of last season and have the efficiency he did, not turning the ball over, have that warrior mentality, it just felt weird having the words coming out of my mouth. I had Clemson winning 31-21, but I'm going to say that last video, I have to change it. Gotta tell you, Clemson favored by 3.5 on the road. I do not like the way that they've played so far this season. Cade Klubnik has not been good enough. A Heisman favorite coming into the year. Without Antonio Williams, it looks like that passing offense cannot replicate the success they had a year ago. Whenever they play good competition, they play the SEC, they play LSU, they struggle. Even when they play a non-Power 4 school in Troy, they get down 16-0. Very fortunate that Troy just could not get any offense going at all in the second half after that point. Got to thank TJ Parker and Peter Woods are looking to have a good day against Georgia Tech. They are key, obviously. They're huge in this game against Georgia Tech. Who will be the guy in the middle of that defense? Is it Sammy Brown that comes up with a big play? Avian Terrell on the outside covering this deep receiving core for the Yellow Jackets? It has to be somebody. Terrell's got to make up for that catch he gave up to Green week 1 against LSU, which gave them the lead. I love what Georgia Tech is built on, and no one can say that they're confident about the way the Clemson Tigers have played so far this season. A lot of people are talking about Natty. Dabo gets his third, rides off into the sunset, but I'm just looking at a team that lost to Texas last year. They lost to South Carolina. They lost to Georgia. Then they come out and start the season losing to LSU and look sloppy. I'm taking Georgia Tech. Colorado, they were gutsy. They had 3 turnovers the first 3 possessions. They pull out the win. Last week, they looked just fine. I like Georgia Tech's team. I like their makeup. They are one of the more entertaining football teams to watch in all of college football. I don't get how you don't like Georgia Tech, and you just enjoy what their head coach Brent Key stands for. I'm going to take them. I got to tell you, I'm taking them to cover. I'm taking them to win. Georgia Tech beats Clemson 24-21 on a game-winning field goal, just like how they beat Mike Norvell, DJ Lagway in the beginning of last year in Ireland. They come out with the win. They pull it off because they can stop the run. Clemson doesn't have any semblance of a run game to start this season. How can you not be concerned that their production running the football has gone stale? When they came back in that game, it was all Bryant Wesco, right? They're relying on the outside, and I gotta tell you, Georgia Tech, this may be the biggest game that they've ever had in their stadium. I just can't remember a game that had this type of magnitude, this importance. Georgia Tech being fully slept on, that they're not even ranked to this stage yet. Don't really get how that works. But they're running back in Jamal Haynes. He's a key for me. Him and Haynes King, I believe they combined for 35 carries in this game. They pound the ball, keep the ball away from Clemson, able to have it at the end of the game when they need to, and they pull out the win. Let's move on. Oklahoma at Temple, who actually plays Georgia Tech next week. Oklahoma is favored by 23.5 points. John Mateer just became one of my favorite players in the Southeast Conference. I like the way he played at Washington State. Didn't see him get to play a whole lot. Was looking forward to that primetime game against Michigan. I think the whole country was looking to see what this kid was made of, what his makeup was, and playing against a very good Michigan defense. They didn't have Barham. That didn't matter early in the first half. I don't think that was relevant to the final result. John Mateer runs the ball in the teens. He puts on the cape, Superman's the thing, and he's able to really be explosive. Deion Burks goes off. Home state of Michigan, grew up in the eastern part of the state, and he goes off against the team that did not recruit him. I've got Oklahoma winning 36-7 on the back of Mateer. Can he limit the turnover, right? He had a big turnover in that game. Didn't end up hurting him because Michigan could not run the ball. Besides the 75-yard rushing touchdown, they had, I believe it was under 3 yards a carry on the day. Loving Brent Venables' defense. Number 14, Iowa State at Arkansas State. Now, I love Rocco Becht. He's him or Levitt. I got to tell you, I'll take Rocco Becht as at this point. Didn't like what I saw in Arizona State dropping and losing that game to Mississippi State last week. Another team, they got down, 17-0 in that game. But Iowa State, Arkansas State, this is on the back of Rocco Becht. He's trust. He goes out there week 1, knocks out Kansas State, a 4th down instead of kicking the field goal, dumps it off to Hansen for the win. Week 2, gutsy, Canarardi, back-to-back years. He nails the 54-yard field goal. Go earn yourself some money, kid. Right? He'll get drafted in the NFL. One of the most, probably got to call him at this point, right? The most clutch kicker in college football. 55.5 points. I'm going to go a little bit under that. I believe Iowa State pulls out the win 36-17. This team is tough. They're physical. That Cy-Hot game is brutal when you have two teams from the state of Iowa meshing. The defense for Campbell has been sound. They easily look like the team with the best chance to get to the Big 12 champ game. Obviously, Texas Tech is looming. They look very good. I like Utah. I gotta tell you, Kyle Whittingham and that Utah team, Dampier leading the guys, and that offensive line has got talent on it, and that defense looks like a Kyle Whittingham defense. They're like practically unbeatable at home. I like the way Utah's looking, but as of right now, Iowa State, got to have them as the favorite. They get this win against Arkansas State. Now we have Reed against Austin Simmons. Taylon Reed, right, for Arkansas, coming in to play Mississippi. I like what I've seen from Lane Kiffin's defense so far. You have to replace Umam Yellen. You have to replace Walter Nolan. You got to get a replacement in the back end for Trey Amos, for Jared Ivey. All of these NFL players that you got to come up with guys for. I mean, Suntarine Perkins has been there. He's been very good as of the start of this season. Number 17, Ole Miss. I like to win 34-17. Can they run the football a little bit? Arkansas is tough. I mean, 7.5 points last week against Kentucky. People were getting a little nervous. That thing was so close that they just did not put him away, kept him around, and did not cover the spread. I think they can cover the spread this week against Arkansas, who just doesn't seem like they have one of those marquee type wins like they did last year, pulling off that home victory against Nico Iamaleava in Tennessee. I got Ole Miss with the win 34-17. This game falls a bit short of the 60.5, and Ole Miss covers the spread. Alabama with the bounce back against Monroe. 21.5 point favorites against Wisconsin. Not quite sure yet who the quarterback for Wisconsin will be this week. Obviously, the injury. Don't know who will be trotting out there. So as of right now, I like what Alabama did last week. Ryan Williams, his status, again, to be honest with you, would not play him. You got the bye next week, and then you've got Georgia. So utilize that, use that to your advantage. 2 bounce-back games. Get yourself right mentally, physically, heart, right? Show some pride. Show some darn heart when you go out there to play Georgia. I like Alabama to win this by a big margin, 48-10, more than covering the 21.5. Wisconsin looked bad against Bama last year at home. You feel bad for that schedule and who they have to play in the Big Ten. It's just brutal. But Bama relying on the run a little bit more. Jeremy Bernard has played great, but up front defensively, LT Overton, Lawson, Jefferson, Jackson, they really get going. The defense finding their stride before they're going to need to bring it against the Dogs. Who knows, though? Georgia might also have a loss, depending on how they play against Tennessee on the road this week. Utah, that team we were talking about earlier, playing Josh Allen's alma mater in Wyoming. Utah, I like to win this game 40-7. Dampierre, his legs, mobility, the way he's thrown the football so far, and the way they've played defense, 23.5-point favorite on the road. I like him to get the win, knocking him off and moving up maybe a little bit in the rankings. Number 20 seems about right. People have been very quick to put him in the top 10. Need to slow down a little bit, see Utah play some better competition, go up against these Big 12 teams that they're going to be facing here very soon. Obviously, earlier in the year, you get some of the gimmies, you got to get right. It's almost like the preseason. That's what we equate the earlier football play in the year to. Obviously, we can try to get games in the preseason so that we don't have to schedule some of these. We'd love to see more Power 4 matchups. Everyone would love to see higher quality of play. But a standout player for Utah so far this year, Daly, he's been great. I believe he can have another sack or two in this matchup with that Utah win 40-7. Oregon State, after they got thrashed like a rag doll against Oregon, they look for a bounce back against Texas Tech. I do not see it coming. Texas Tech, 23.5-point favorites at home. Get ready for the tortillas, because they are going to be thrown all over and quite often. I've got Tech winning 38-13. Couple of these Big 12 teams, right? Utah, Texas Tech, Iowa State. We saw Arizona State get bumped out of there, but they're going to stick around. That connection between Leavitt and Tyson, obviously electric. But Tech, right? They've spent all that money. They've brought it in, trying to build this team out and build talent around them, and it's worked so far. You have to like what you've seen so far from Morton. The kid is performing so far. 10 touchdowns already on the season. Have they played anybody? No. Are they playing anyone this week in Oregon State? Not really. The run game has been there defensively. You like what you've seen. Roberts has been good at backer. What's his name? Height, I think is Height how you pronounce it. He's had a couple of sacks. Texas Tech with a 38-13 win. Moving along to number 22, Indiana, Fernando Mendoza. That connection to Elijah Surratt, one of the most underrated in college football. I like them to blow out Indiana State. This doesn't seem like a fair fight. 38-10. D'Angelo Pons in this secondary. They've got great players on each of those three levels of the defense. Kamara might see himself being a day 2 pick. Have him as like a late second round guy as of right now on my big board of rankings, which we'll be coming out with. Let me know how often you would like to see the college football player rankings, and when we come out with the guys that I have ranked so far, like a big board at the top 150, top 200, who we have going into next year, as well as an overall ranking of the best players in college football. A lot of guys that we don't know that are coming out this year, obviously, that are easily in the mix for best players in the country. Indiana with a nice win at home, 38-10. The Michigan Wolverines sitting at 23. They take an 8 ranking point tumble down to 23 from 15 after the loss and the road to the Oklahoma Sooners. They got Central Michigan. Their identity, they're trying to find it, right? Is Bryce Underwood the play action stuff? Are they trying to run the football 25, 30 times a game to Justice Haynes, using Bryce's legs more? I think it's exactly what they need to do. They get Barham obviously back for an entire game. He looked great before he got ejected. Benny, Derek Moore. Rod Moore is not healthy. I believe that was a really big injury that hurt him against Oklahoma. Not enough people are talking about that. Michigan, I think they bounce back. 27.5-point favorites. Don't fully cover that, but 34-10. Show off their strengths, but have people a little bit weary there. I think that they should maybe win that game by a little bit more, but didn't like what I saw from the offensive line. Auburn, Jackson Arnold and Auburn, Missouri at 25. Both of these teams find themselves in the rankings a lot like UCF, crashing the party. Auburn, after that nice win against Baylor, a nice performance last week. The Tigers, I think, get a win against South Alabama, 34-10. Really bringing in that pass game, right? Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton. This is easily one of my favorite duos of wide receivers in college football. These guys are monsters. Singleton out of the slot. Coleman with his vertical and deep threat ability. Crawford, right? This guy has been great at the defensive end spot. We thought that Falk would be that great player for them. He still is. Could still be a first-round guy. But Crawford's been a nice surprise so far for Auburn. I've got the Tigers pulling out the win, 34-10 at home against South Alabama. And our last game at Missouri playing Louisiana. Missouri at home, 25th ranked team in the country. Obviously, that offense is looking for a new identity, having a new starting quarterback for them. It's key, really, for these types of games to get right before you have the rest of that SEC schedule. I've loved what I've seen from Beau Pribula. You probably have too. This kid has been electric with his legs, been smart with the football, hasn't turned it over, I don't think, yet. Efficient, and the run game's been there. Coleman Jr. has established himself as his number one wide receiver. He likes to get the football to. Missouri Tigers looking good, and then what you see from the rest of the schedule, you have to kind of like. I mean, they got South Carolina coming up. They got Alabama, Auburn, and Oklahoma A&M as the ranked matchups, but you don't see Georgia. You don't see Texas. You don't see LSU. Three top teams in the country, so you're going to be avoiding all of them. So Alabama, who knows? Auburn, Jackson Arnold still have a lot of questions to answer with his ability to pass the ball. South Carolina, a lot of these are winnable games. Missouri, a little bit of a dark horse at this point right now. Can they get the win versus Louisiana before they have a very tough task against South Carolina? Great opportunity to build some momentum before that matchup. Please let me know down below in the comments what you think of all these matchups. I'm excited for all of them. We get to learn a lot more about these teams, see who struggles against the weaker competition, plays down, see what teams have some surprising performances. Last week, obviously, the Mississippi State upset. USF wins, and now they're ranked now. What happens in the ranked games, the A&M, Notre Dame, and the USF. Miami is USF, truly legit, 18.5-point favorites. So obviously Vegas and FanDuel, everybody doesn't really think so. Florida not ranked anymore against LSU. What comes of the ranked matchups, as well as how the other teams fare across the country in these other games. So please subscribe for more content in the future. This was a whole bunch of fun to make. Break it down about 21 games that we're excited for. We'll see how we do against the spread. We'll have to give you an update on how that goes. You could keep track of everything as you go watching this, but I appreciate you so much, and you can look forward to more videos in the future with Blitz with Blender. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.
Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blender, hi everybody, I'm Josh Blender.
To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa to the 20.